Welcome to the After the Show movie podcast, brought to you by your hosts, Ace Scully and Sid Talk. We're addicted to movies. Are you? Hello. Welcome, Sid Talk. How are you doing?
I'm very well, thank you.
And how are you doing? I thought I'd throw a spanner in the works.
Yes. Yes, 42.
And how are you doing?
That was not the before the after the show discussion. It was this movie and my plans for the weekend.
I was doing some research on this movie.
A little bit of research.
Yeah.
A little bit of discussion, as you do.
Yeah.
That's it. That's the whole deal. And how am I doing? How are you doing?
I'm fine, thank you.
Sure,
and I am wearing a t-shirt and shorts. If you was going to ask what I'm wearing.
I was not. What's wrong with you? Why? That comment about this movie got to you. It's electrifyingly demented or something.
This podcast is electrifyingly demented.
So you're trying to, or dementedly electrifying something. Yeah. So you're trying to be electrifying and demented?
Sure.
Okay, gotcha.
All right, let's get on with this.
Yes.
Let's get on with this podcast. It is Thursday, February the 13th. Happy Valentine's Day, everybody.
Yeah.
For tomorrow.
Happy.
Happy Love Day.
Our Love Day is Groundhog Day.
It is. We already had our Love Day,
it's our wedding anniversary.
Screw Valentine's Day.
One thing I will say, you bought one of those little curtains of lights that you can put whatever image, and now you're putting little hearts on there. It's very cute.
It is.
We're very LED'd up in this house.
We have so many lights in this house. It's not funny.
We're like on a safety level, like we would be able to find our way out at night if we had them on some kind of battery. That would be fine. We would be good, like on an airplane, you know?
I have I was going to say obsession, but I hate that. It's not an obsession.
No.
But I do love buying.
Let's say fixation.
I like buying things that light up.
You do?
It's kind of like, I've been there because there's some lights around.
Correct.
Yeah.
That you have some dominion over that area. The living room is very LED'd up, for sure.
All right. So it is Thursday, February the 13th. This is After the Show, your weekly movie review podcast. And on episode 878, we're looking at the movie Better Man. It's a 2025 release. It's out now on streaming, rated R. Its runtime is 2 hours and 15 minutes. And it's from Paramount, who sent us a copy for review. Sid Talk, can you give us the synopsis of the movie Better Man?
First, let me just address that you say that as if this is the only movie review podcast.
Yeah, we are the only.
Okay, I'm not going to burst that bubble for you.
Yes.
That is fine.
We are the only movie review podcast.
I mean, to be fair, I don't watch any others. This is the only one I participate in, so.
Correct.
My synopsis?
Synopsis, yes.
I mean, there is no synopsis. It's the origin story of Robbie Williams.
Robin Williams?
No.
Is that a different movie?
You are feeling spry today. I like it.
Yeah.
Very different movie. Yes.
I'll give you the one off the box then.
Aye.
I'll say this properly. The meteoric rise, dramatic fall, and remarkable resurgence of British pop star Robin Williams.
Not Robin Williams.
I told you, demented. Okay, Robbie Williams. So let me explain to anybody who doesn't know who Robbie Williams is.
Okay, now, this is part of our discussion before, is the actual level of fame.
If you're a British person, aka me and other British people, you will know who Robbie Williams is. 100%. You can't have escaped it.
Because
he was in a pop band called Take That.
Never heard of him.
Which were huge in the UK and other countries, but they didn't really break into America. Robbie Williams was a member of them who had a solo career that was bigger than Take That. But not here, I don't think, because I've asked some people.
Correct.
And they have said they don't know who he is.
Correct.
So let's say a huge megastar, but if you're from the US, you might have only heard a couple of his songs, and you wouldn't go, oh yeah, that song, that's Robbie Williams. You probably
and I'm not going to sing it, but he was Loving Angels instead.
Yes, which everybody knows that song.
We don't want to pay for that, so yeah, that's the one.
So Angels, the song Angels, I don't think American people go, oh yeah, Robbie Williams, I love him. I think they go, oh, that song's awesome.
Some Americans, yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So the level of fame he's huge in the UK, he's not so much here.
Aye.
But I don't think that alters the fact that this is a good story, it doesn't even matter who it is. The story and the presentation of this movie is for anybody to enjoy, know him or not know him, right?
I mean, that's a bold statement, but yes, it is a story of, the meteoric rise, as you said, and a fall, and mental health issues and problems that arise with a personality, no matter how much money they've got. And then, of course, falling, redemption. It's the same. It's not a new story. Let's not pretend.
It's a tale as old as time.
It's a tale because, you've got your protagonist who is the person. He's a kid. Then decides he wants to be famous. And then he gets this opportunity. And then, of course, because of who he is, him absorbing, becoming hugely famous in the world and getting anything he wants and loads of money feeds something in him that is his self-doubt and his kind of self-loathing, and it's a mental health issue.
Self-destruction.
Yeah, self-destructive tendencies, of course, and having access to all that money and being able to show your journey in front of everyone. Right. It's actually no different than if it's someone like my father who is an alcoholic, or the person across the street who's a drug addict, or anyone else who struggles through that whole process, but they're just not world famous, right? It's that story.
Yes.
It's just that what you said is exactly right. The presentation of this story is what made me think this is a fucking amazing cinematic experience. So there's that. Yeah, I loved it. I absolutely. When we stopped the first time to take a pee break, because we have our own little theater in our house, so we kind of can control that. And the little line comes up on the bottom, how much is over. And I was like, yes, it's not even halfway done. Like, that's how I was just like really in it.
You're not like a fan of Robbie Williams. You're not.
No, not at all. I'm neutral.
That's why I say I don't think this movie requires you to be a fan, because the human touchingness of it, and it is very touching, I have to say. There was plenty of moments where I was like, oh my God.
Yeah, and we'll get into do you feel sorry for this? And he'll say it himself. People look at him and go, you're just some rich dickhead who doesn't even see what he's got and you're ruining it.
Right.
Like, come on, right? So that can make you angry because you're like, this guy has everything, and yet he's being a dick, like a complete loser, right? He's a loser, even though he's up on stages and playing to millions of people. So that can make you angry at him. And then if you peel away that and realize that struggle is just like everybody else, it literally is just everyone else, then I'm really into it, because the presentation of a person who has to live this out in front of everyone. Well, it doesn't have to, but does. And also what I'm thinking about during the movie is that he's part of making of this movie. So he's having to go back.
He's doing the voiceover.
And he's having
to
reflect himself. And look at footage of himself being terrible and wasted and all the things that, from the movie presentation anyway, that, you could lower your opinion of yourself, thinking like, oh my God, I was singing with Tom Jones and look what an asshole I was. Like, that kind of thing. So I was thinking about that, factoring that in, and also just I don't want to say it's like revealing of your own self, because he's a famous guy. He lives his life in the public eye for the most part, but to really dig down and say, yep, here, I'm going to make a movie. Yeah. And you can judge me. You can think whatever you want about me. I'm just going to go ahead and do it. I find that there, on some level, that's, respect.
And let me say, we are 10 minutes into this podcast and we haven't mentioned the monkey in the ring.
The spoiler.
The poster the trailer definitely spoils it.
Right, the trailer does. So here's me. I don't know about movies before we watched them. I'd even forgotten which movie we were watching when I sat down with my cup of tea and my blanket, and it started, and I was like, Better Man. What's that? I don't know. I don't pay attention when you tell me. So, and then, if you would like to reveal it, and then it starts, and you're getting him as a kid, and how do they present him as a character in this entire movie?
As a chimp/monkey.
Yeah, a CGI.
If you've seen Planet of the Apes, the same look, the same thing.
And us telling you this isn't really a spoiler because I just looked and it's actually on the box. It's on the thing. It's
the cover is the Rolling Stone magazine with him as a monkey on the front.
So it's not like we are breaking some big secret here.
No. I mean, you can't show a trailer to this movie without showing he's a monkey. Because every scene is a monkey.
There is no. And when we say it, we're not. But it's not a thing in the movie.
It is not.
He just is. And then as you learn later, why did he decide or go along with this idea?
In an interview, he said that he's always felt less evolved than other people, aka a monkey.
Sure.
He also mentioned a performing chimp, that kind of vibe.
Right on.
So that's how he's portrayed in this movie. From the very first frame to the very last frame, he never turns into Robbie Williams.
No.
Which I was glad they didn't do that.
When he was starting to shave his head, I was like, oh, no. Don't have him, because he leans his head down in front of the mirror. Like, he's gone through all the shit. He's getting to the point of like, I have to change my ways. And he's starting to shave his head.
I thought that was the transformation.
Yes, I thought, because he leans forward out of frame where his face goes down like over here. And then I thought when he lifts up, it's going to be Robbie Williams. And I actually was like, in my mind, I'm crossing my fingers. Please don't do it. Please don't do it. And then they did not. So that's good.
Robbie Williams does not appear in this movie at all, I don't think. Unless he's somewhere.
Yeah, like in the background or something.
Somebody plays him in a motion capture suit. He's portrayed as a monkey. But the voiceover, similar to we're watching Dexter Original Sin at the moment.
Mm-hmm.
There's a character playing young Dexter. And then over the top is the guy we know as Dexter doing a voiceover. So it's the same here. And Robbie Williams is doing his own voiceover.
It is a bit of a mind bender. And I think that, and here's me going to be very snotty, you know, if things challenge you and it kind of confuses you and shit's not status quo, this might turn some people off.
If you watch the first opening sequence and then are going like, why is he a monkey? Why is he a monkey?
Yeah,
and
what's happening? What's happening? What's happening? What's going on? Like, I don't understand something.
Or is this just the opening and then in a minute we'll see Robbie Williams?
I literally, from the moment it started, he's a little kid and he's getting picked on because he's kind of useless playing ball in the yard or whatever. But then he has one friend who then is his friend for his whole life, of course, because we all need one of those. Helps him, picks him up out of the dirt from that moment.
Yeah.
When he's like the CGI, you know, Planet of the Apes kid. And it just is what it is. I was, and I'm not even kidding, I don't know why, because on another day I might have been more cynical or skeptical. But today I was like, I'm in love with this movie.
Yeah.
I'm instantly in love. And then I was just all in. I don't even have an explanation.
And you don't even have you probably don't know half the songs.
No. I know none of the songs except the Angel one.
Right. None of them.
I know none of Take Back. Take Back?
Take That.
To be like saying, what's that band called? The Ladybugs? Oh, the Beatles? Oh, them. Yeah, that. No, I don't know any of their songs. So to me, it was removed from this is Robbie Williams.
Right.
Da-da-da-da. To this is an amazing story. Like watching Freddie Mercury, of course. You know, I'm pretty familiar with, not the life of, but watching that movie, it's like, oh yeah, Freddie Mercury. I fucking love Queen, right?
And I know all these songs.
Yeah, this was more like a fictional person, right?
Mm-hmm.
Who doesn't even exist. And you're just telling me this story.
That's why I think this is kind of universal to watch.
Yeah.
Because I think the songs are really fun. I'm not a Take That fan either.
I'm not a musical fan, but there were musical numbers.
There are musical numbers.
They were great.
The one down the London street where they're becoming Take That, and it's just
when he and her,
they're just
she
very
and him
fun.
Dancing on the boat. That one was really good because it showed their life together, but in this one
just
scene.
In a song, one song.
Yeah, I think it was just really good.
My favorite one was
gushing.
Where he was driving away from Gary Barlow's house in his car.
Oh, yeah. He was upset.
And he's singing. And stuff's happening around him. And it's kind of, this movie's kind of dreamlike in a way, isn't it?
Sometimes,
Reminded me a bit of Train Spotting, that bit where he goes in the water. And there's, But yeah.
I feel like part of that was maybe, and I have no clue whatsoever. I've never listened to an interview with Robbie Williams. I don't know any of his actual comments about this other than what you've told me. But I can imagine at some point he might have said on reflection, wow, those 5 years was like a blur.
Right.
Right. It was like I was underwater and I couldn't get my air and everything was just, it was just chaos. That is what that scene when he goes in the water and all the people are swirling around him like this tornado
so cool
of,
looking.
it was like terrifying and understandable that someone, if they describe that feeling to you and then you're able to put it into that visual, representation, I was like, I get it.
I've heard Take That songs along the way, clearly, because they're on the radio all the time. And Robbie Williams songs.
Before you go on, what is the time frame of Take That? It was the 90s, correct?
Yeah, early to late 90s.
Right, because by the time he gets to the big hall at the end, it's only 2001.
Right.
And so they've already been famous and he's done his own thing. So yeah, the 90s is what we're talking about.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, the 90s. And then the 2000s was when
he did his own thing.
Yeah, did his own thing. It tracks through the 90s. It even has Oasis make an appearance. Not the real Oasis. Some people playing Oasis. Robbie's, I was going to say friends with Liam, but it doesn't seem like he's friends with Liam, does it?
You would never know. We don't know the truth about things. This is all fiction to me, so.
Delves deep into his thing, though.
Yeah.
His life. Including some terrible things.
Very sad things.
Yeah,
things that normal, average, everyday schlubs who don't have lots of money go through.
Yeah.
Yes.
But also things to do with, like, an interesting thing to me was when Take That got really famous, and then he went home to see his grandma and his mum. And then he said in the voiceover, my mum didn't open the curtains for 10 years.
Yeah.
Things like that are just really, it's like, oh. And why I say that is because the paparazzi were outside the house the entire time.
And fans screaming and yelling and messing with their garden and everything.
Right. And how things can mess everybody else up. And you're kind of in charge of that.
You mean it's your fault?
Yeah, but because he's a cocky young asshole, he's kind of doesn't even care, does he, at the moment? I mean, he's very cocky and very terrible at some point. I mean, that's the reason it's called Better Man. Exactly. He wants to be better.
Exactly.
I mean, he doesn't want to be better during the whole drug-fueled part of this movie, which is very long, the drug-fueled part.
Yeah.
I kind of lost count the amount of times I saw him snorting cocaine. Because they make a point to show you and really say, like, this wasn't just a little, he snorted a couple of lines of cocaine. He was absolutely, like, destructive. Every performance he was giving, every TV performance, he was just wrecked, right?
It looked that way, yeah.
Even on Parkinson, which is like our...
Phil Donahue of the day.
Well, I would say more like our David Letterman show.
Not really like David Letterman. Parkinson's more like the guy who asks the kind of deep question.
Charlie Rose is yours?
I would say Phil Donahue-ish.
I always thought Phil Donahue was kind of trashy like Jerry Springer.
He had his moments, but he would also ask, hard questions.
Yeah, so even when he's on that show, and you can go on YouTube and watch the actual interview where he's on Parkinson, and it's clear there's something. He's drunk or something,
That's what I was saying. Like, he sitting making this movie, looking at, like, I've done a lot of crazy shit in my life, but guess what? Nobody was filming me. So And
you don't have to look at it.
No, my only reference is my memory. And I can turn it into whatever I want, right? I could rewrite my own history in my mind.
Right.
If you're this person who literally is on every talk show, in every magazine, on every radio show, and you say the craziest shit and you do crazy, unnice shit in front of everyone and you're looking at it, you can't rewrite that, right? You can tell why. You can say why you were fucked up on that day on cocaine. You were sad because your grandma died or because you were upset about whatever, but it's still just there. And then everyone else gets to write their own interpretation of it. So that's very confronting.
So a very fun movie about something a lot of you might not know what it is. But I would say, even if you don't know who Robbie Williams is and you know nothing of his story, this is a really interesting, fun movie. And the visuals, we didn't talk about it, but the actual CG of the ape is brilliant.
It's absolutely. There are only two times when it got a little bit like, I had to kind of squint when he was jumping.
Right.
During the dancing, he's jumping up off the ground onto the back of the bus. And then I was like, oh, we're going into action movie territory here but everything else, the close-ups and interactions with people. I mean, you forget on one level. Like my brain is always, my movie watching brain is like, oh, that looks so good all the time. It didn't
matter to me that he was...
No.
I think about a minute into the movie, I was like, okay, he's a monkey in this movie. Okay. There's a reason for it, I'm sure. We've not really been told it yet.
It's going with the flow.
Yeah, and I'm sure it's a good enough reason, right? So, and I don't care because it looks cool. So let's see what happens. And then by the end of it, I was like, I totally understand it. I can see every emotion on this monkey's face. When this monkey is off its head on cocaine, its eyes are all
fucked up. Yeah. Red like bloodshot. And
it's really good. This is a movie that I did not expect to like so much.
I can imagine that some of your 1-star reviews or other reviews that are not being as kind as we are will say things like, it's a gimmick because without that, this movie is just boring like all the others, blah, blah, blah. And you know what? To be fair, it does add a lot. However, it's equal to everything else, telling me the story of this person visually by using this like presentation, as you said. And I'm interested in this story. Yes, it's the same story as we've heard a lot with other humans in the past, but there's something about understanding that he feels less inside.
Yeah.
This is how he feels. Like he's a joke, he's an imposter, he's a performing monkey, whatever. And that being reminded to you constantly, I think is valuable to his story.
He does the epitome of his career. Like he plays Nebworth, which is like a huge music festival in England. Well, it's not a festival. It's just he's the headliner.
So what's the equivalent of here? Because I had never heard of it. I still don't know what it is.
Nebworth is huge. Oasis did Nebworth.
I understand. What is it? But it's just a place.
The place is called Nebworth, yeah. But it's just a huge... It's like Glastonbury.
Don't know. But again,
Glastonbury's focused on a bunch of artists, whereas Nebworth is just you, whoever's the big thing at that time.
Right, but why is it a big deal?
Just because it's the biggest crowd in England. I don't know how many it fits, but
he said 125,000 people.
So even when he's doing that concert, which is replicated to the T, because I've seen that performance quite a few times, in the middle of it, the other monkeys that are, what you could say they're the monkeys on his back, the ones that are...
Well, it's him. He looks in the audience and he sees himself at all the different stages we've seen him. So
telling him that he's worthless.
Yes, like at one point in his life, he had the bleached blonde hair. So we see him with the bleached blonde hair. We see him as a child. We see him as a teenager. Like our memory of that character, because he had certain very specific costumes, very specific the way that his hair hung on his head.
Yeah.
And all of them are hating him from the audience. They become his worst critic, I guess is how you would say that. Man against himself, right? Man versus himself.
Yep.
And they're filling up the audience. And then what happens?
There is an epic battle scene.
I know.
Reminiscent of Planet of the Apes. Like
I was thinking Braveheart.
The whole screen is filmed with monkeys fighting.
Yeah.
Then there's like one-on-one monkey. I mean, it's something I absolutely, at that point, I was like, all bets are off this movie. Anything could happen. But I didn't think I was like watching him do the Nebworth performance and I was like, oh, this is really cool that they've recreated this. And then I'm like, what the hell is happening now? This is crazy.
Well, some could be very academic about it and say, this is what I was saying. There are only a limited number of stories we tell, right? Man versus nature. And I use man because that's the traditional. So human versus nature, human versus themselves, human versus technology is a new one. And so that's really all you've got.
Yeah.
And human versus human. So you've got man battling men in the world or whatever. That's it. So if you think about that, and if they're having a conversation and the writing was happening and you're like, well, it's really about me battling myself. I'm my worst enemy. Then how would we portray that? Well, let's make an entire battle scene where all I'm fighting is myself. You know what I mean?
Yes.
And then it would become like Mr. What's his name? Mr. Smith.
Yeah, Agent Smith. Yeah.
Agent Smith. But these looked good. So we won't.
And it was just a sequence I wasn't expecting. And I was like, wow.
God, no. After musical scenes and emotional stuff, and then there's a battle scene, it was like I was already all in. So.
All right, let's get on to the cast here. John O. Davis plays Robbie Williams. Now, how they made this movie, during my research, I figured it all out.
Okay.
Is John O. Davis wore a motion capture suit, and they just made the movie as though it was a live action movie with no CG. Like, they didn't even have the CG equipment. They just captured his motion.
They weren't on the green screens and all that crazy stuff.
Yeah, so they just filmed it with him in every scene with the motion capture suit, and everybody just ignore that he's in a motion capture suit.
Wow.
And just do the scenes. And then they took all the footage away a year later, and Weta Workshop, who did Planet of the Apes, they built the ape model on top of the suit. So it was a different way of doing it, because normally movies have the CG thing in mind first.
Sure.
And it's on the set, and they're doing everything lit for the CG and stuff. So this was not that. So it's a miracle that it's done like that. Because when you're watching it, like I say, 10 minutes in, I didn't even think about him being a monkey, to be fair. I think by the end, I wasn't even...
I mean, we're talking a lot about it, so it has a huge impact on the experience, but that's part of the story.
It has an impact on, like, the stylized scenes, I think, where he does magical things and
like when he's dancing with her on the boat, and it's kind of dreamy, so then they can add a layer of more weirdness.
Yeah.
And you're just I'm okay with it.
So John O. Davis played Robbie Williams. What do you think? I mean, it's the performance capture. He sounds like him.
Was it his voice?
It was John O. Davis's voice, yeah. Not Robbie Williams.
I mean, I'm convinced that this character we're seeing is real and is who he says he is and is struggling. I understand that the CGI added with the tears in the eyes and the bloodshot, all that stuff. Yeah. And then like the expression tweaks. But under there has to be somebody doing it for real. And so to me, it's all him, Robbie Williams' voice, the CGI people who sat at their computers probably for almost countless hours, but I'm sure they counted them because they got paid.
Apparently a whole year.
Creating these performances as a group. It's a very collaborative thing, I'm convinced. And so his part was like huge. And body-wise, like... I feel like the more you know when you think about it, because he's very animated, Robbie Williams, just in general, if you've ever seen him perform at all. And so he's, physical, and he's kind of the goofball. He's kind of the guy they show him, at one point they're showing like kind of a year on the road with the band, and in the bus, they do little, like a montage. And he's the one who's just constantly jumping on the seats. And
the funny man.
And everyone else is trying to rest. And so those scenes, you feel like, the physicality of this guy's performance, that's where it kind of comes through, I think. But that's a tough one.
I put down his grandma, played by Alison Steadman. It's really sad, isn't it, the grandma story?
Well, the thing is, in your life,
everybody's got that story.
Everybody's got that story. It may not be grandma. Could have been an aunt. Could be your dad. Whoever it is. But grandma to him was the one who sat on the couch with him, like you said. Same as your grandma.
Exactly the same.
Having chips and watching funny shows when you're a kid and making you, no matter what doubts you have about yourself, they just squash it. They just say, oh, no.
Yeah.
You're perfect the way you are, and you are fine. And unfortunately, that voice doesn't always rise to the top, right? The thing about his dad abandoning him and his mother, and sort of like abandoning Robbie because he's not whatever for many years, right?
His dad doesn't get off lightly in this, does he?
No. And until Robbie becomes famous, from what we can tell, the dad doesn't really give a shit because he's also a showman, but not on the same level.
He wants to be.
That abandonment is bigger than grandma's voice. And that's what's sad, but it still is a prevalent thing throughout his life. She's the place he wants to go. She's the one who makes him feel right. And so I love that.
I absolutely love when grandma's died. Spoilers. He goes to a grave and brings a little television and his bag of crisps. It's so sad.
It is sad. It's just that's, as a person, he must have struggled because he was in one of his kind of drug stupery times and he didn't answer the phone, didn't know how bad sick she was. And so she died without him being there. And so that would weigh on him, of course. He had a reaction to that.
Yeah, and then Steve Pemberton plays his dad, and you had a disliking for his dad.
Disliked his dad.
But he did a good job of being dislikeful.
Correct. Dislikeful.
Dislikeful's not a word.
Dislikable.
Dislikable. He's just shitty.
Selfish.
Like, I want to make it, so fuck it, I'm just going to leave my family without telling them.
Yeah, we don't know the true story, but he got on a bus one day to go to a football match or / soccer match and then never came back until the grandma made him. At some point, he called Robbie when he was like a teenager.
Right.
He wasn't Robbie Williams yet. He was still just a schlub. And then, of course, when Robbie Williams becomes very famous, Dad likes to take credit for it. And he's just sleazy to me.
Yeah, Dad does like to take credit. There wouldn't be a Robbie Williams without me.
I mean, to be fair, that is true.
That is true, but it's not. That's not something you should be taking credit for.
And also, what fueled Robbie's self-doubt and competitiveness to be something was because he felt abandoned by his father. So, fair enough.
Yeah.
I mean, if that's the credit you want to take.
And his mother's played by Kate Mulvaney, and she was really good too.
She was good. I mean, it's pretty subtle. There's not a lot going on there.
At the beginning, when it first started, I was like, where's his mum? Like, because he is grandma.
Yeah.
And his dad.
I thought that too.
I was thinking his mum's gone, right? And then his mum is not. She turns up a bit later. But at first I thought, okay, his grandma's raising him, basically. It wasn't telegraphed correctly. Directed by Michael Gracie. He directed The Greatest Showman, which is a musical I have never seen, but it is huge. Everybody loves it who's into musicals. It's Wolverine, right? He's
the story of Wolverine?
The story of Wolverine.
As told through song and dance.
It's the story of the circus, but like this movie, it's played by...
P.T. Barnum?
It might be. Wolverine is the star of it.
I see.
I've definitely heard songs from it because you can't escape that.
Correct.
I didn't see it. So what do you think of the directing?
I just think that he got the best out of every...
And it's got that British movie feel.
A little bit, yeah. Yeah.
Which I describe as twee.
Oh.
A little bit twee. You get what I'm saying?
Like trying to be rough around the edges, but in the end, it's got a good heart.
Exactly. Like Love Actually is a good example.
Gotcha.
Because this movie's like full of swear words.
And it's about drug abuse and mental health issues and a guy being a dickhead.
It's definitely
and yet,
rough around the edge. Like, it's not family friendly.
You're rooting for him.
Yeah, it's not a film to sit down with your 6-year-olds to watch. Because
it depends on the 6-year-old.
It contains some language, let's say. It doesn't contain sex.
You tell the 6-year-old, we're going to watch this story about this guy.
And he might say the C word a couple of times.
He says lots of swear words and does lots of things. And we're watching it because it's a cautionary tale for what I don't want you to do in your life. But the chances are there's going to come a time in your life when you swear words and you do some of these things. So, I trust you as a human being to absorb the story and we'll move on. That's what I would say to a 6-year-old. This is why, people don't loan me their 6-year-olds to watch movies with.
But it does have that feel. It's kind of cute in a way, but it's also a bit nasty around the edges. And I feel like Love Actually is the same.
Absolutely.
It deals with some serious shit, but then it's kind of goofy as well. Like, it's the same.
Yeah.
IMDb reviews, what are those?
Those are reviews where somebody is not going to like it as much as we do, and they're going to give it a one little star, and you're going to tell us in a funny voice what they typed.
Yes, I am. How many 1-star reviews would you think this has?
1,000.
Well, I'll tell you how many 10-star reviews it has, right?
Okay.
The people who think this is the perfect movie, there's 84 of those. So, how many 1-stars did you say?
1,000.
It's 7.
Oh, okay. So, what we're really saying here is IMDb is not that popular of a place for people to put reviews.
Yeah, you're right. Not many people write reviews on IMDb.
I mean, my goodness, you would think it is the Internet Movie Database. Yeah. Why are there not thousands of reviews for every movie? I mean, I don't go on there, so I guess.
Number 1 guy on here says, I saw this today. I was literally dragged to see it by my wife. I didn't even want to see it. This is another self-obsessed, self-indulgent, narcissistic personality disorder story. It's much the same as Rocket Man or Bohemian Rhapsody and all the rest. Poor me, I have found fame and fortune, and I'm so undeserving I can't cope. Give me a break.
Okay, I don't disagree.
That's exactly what you said would be. Yeah.
I don't disagree with that. I get it. Some whiny rich person who says, oh, it's really tough, it's really hard being famous, and you're sitting over there going, really? Because I can't pay my $700 mortgage, and you just ate $1,000 worth of caviar, right? However, the mental health issue and our self inside. Yes, your behaviors can be fueled by money, but nothing changes what's in you. So I have to separate those two things. So I'm on board with that review.
Second guy says, interesting idea, I agree, but the subject matter is intensely boring and the concept was sufficient for a viewing. That doesn't make sense. We have had Robbie's fake attention-seeking issues thrust down our throats for years, and here's another version of that.
Ooh, okay.
I imagine middle-aged women are very wet when they watch this.
They didn't have to say that. That's just a dick move.
But watching Williams on the screen, you're not watching him on the screen? He's not there on the screen. Is a cringe fest. So that's that guy. And the last guy says, why would anyone want to make a movie with a CGI ape portraying an actual human? What's the point? I like Robbie Williams and his real-life performances, but this does nothing to promote even the singer or his songs. This falls into the category of just because you can doesn't mean you should. It's a complete waste of time.
Waste of time. I love that. That's my favorite.
Yeah. So those are the one-star people.
Got it.
They said exactly what you thought they would say. I think.
I'm highly intelligent.
Exactly. So we did not see any extras, so let's give this movie a score. I'm going to give Better Man an 8 out of 10.
And I am going to give it a 9.1.
I would give it I don't do the points. So I would give it more like an 8.7 to be fair. If I had to.
See, the points come in handy because a percentage of one whole thingy.
I think,
sometimes you got to dial it in on the fine little dot.
What I like that it's done is I'm not a fan of Robbie Williams. I like a few of his songs. Like a universal story, I think anybody can watch it. And I think the fact that it has, some people would say, a gimmick is not a gimmick. Once you get into watching it, it is not a gimmick. It's actually a big part of what the story is.
Agree.
And I know there's people going to say, no, they just made him a monkey because they could sell it more.
So do you want now to make the effort to go find and listen to Robbie Williams music?
Not really. But
so
it doesn't mean I don't appreciate it. Doesn't mean I don't appreciate him, though. Because I think he's made some good music. But it's not really my music, if you get what I'm saying.
Aye.
But I do like a few of his songs. I like She's the One. I think it's really good. I like Angels. And I like Rock DJ, which is, interestingly, that big scene they do in this movie where they sing Rock DJ, where they're running down the street.
Yes.
Now, that's not actually a Take That song, even though they have Take That performing it. It's a Robbie Williams song. From his solo career. So I think they just were mixing things up, but I was like, this is not a Take That song. Why wouldn't you have done a Take That song when they were running down the street? Anyway, pedantics, semantics.
Pedantics?
Semantics, pedantics.
I did just say I'm very intelligent, but I don't think I know, in reference to what you're saying, how the word pedantics would fit in there. I'm saying it doesn't.
It doesn't. All right, that's the movie, Better Man. Next week, we're going to look at the movie Companion, starring Jack Quaid.
Jack Quaid.
You like Jack Quaid?
I do.
With your recommendations, I was thinking of some other other films that deal with the music industry. So my favorite one of all time is The Doors by Oliver Stone.
It is. You've loved it forever.
I think it's like my perfect biopic for a musician. So there's that one. And there's also, I like a band called The Happy Mondays from Manchester. And they have a movie. It's not biopic as such, is it?
I don't know.
I guess it kind of is. So they have a movie about them called 24-Hour Party People.
Oh, yes.
Starring Steve Coogan. And it's from quite some time ago. But if you're interested in the Happy Mondays and you want to see a dramatized version of their upcoming, well, it's not really all about them. Mm-mm. It's about Factory Records and the Manchester music scene and the whole thing. But it's called 24-Hour Party People, and that is my second recommendation.
Right, and only people who are, what are they called when people are enamored with British stuff?
Anglophiles.
Okay, only those people will know what the hell you're talking about.
Yes.
Because we don't know about the rise of the...
You don't know about any of that.
No.
Nor do you know who Robbie Williams is.
I disagree with that. because of the angel song, because some people will know. Some people. But the whole thing about the rise of the Happy Mondays or that scene of music and all that kind of stuff, no. There's not going to be many. My recommendations are going back to all horror movies since movies began, and I'm up into the 40s. These are movies I've seen. It's not about the quality. Some of them I don't remember the story, but I've seen them. I look and then I'm like, oh yeah, I remember. A lot of these older ones we've watched on Svengoolie. You know what that is? One of those horror host guys, who plays like funny old movies.
Like Elvira.
Yes, but not. And I'm in the 40s, so I'm up to Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, 1941. Night Monster from 1942. The Mummy's Tomb from 1942. Captive Wild Woman, 1943. And Phantom of the Opera, also, I believe, 1943 or 44. Captive Wild Woman, I don't remember for sure. It's either like the 40s were very enamored with this idea of discovering tribal people in jungles and whatnot. Now it's horrible. It's racist. It's terrible. It is terrible. I accept that. When I watch them, I cringe. It's just that would be one of those where some scientists went into a jungle and there was a beautiful wild woman and he brings her back, but she actually kind of turns into a deadly cheetah or something. I can't remember exactly.
Sounds good.
Like she's cursed because he's taken her away from her native land. I don't remember what it was, but that kind of thing.
I like the sound of that one. I will watch it. All right. Is that your recommendation?
All
right. Hey, Scully Stuff. I just wanted to say that we had 2 winners to our contest last week.
Yay!
They won the movie digital code for Wolfman. Those were Mason and Amy. So thank you. We had a lot of entries. So thank you to everybody that entered.
Because your wife's suggestion, I'm the wife, by the way. I don't know if you know, we're married to each other.
Yes.
I know you know. But my suggestion last week, because you were going to just pop it off at the beginning of the podcast and say blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, no, don't do that. And don't mention it until the end. Because only the people who really listen all the way to the end deserve any prizes that you would ever give away. And so thank you, Mason and Amy. You are hardcore.
People who listen to the end of our podcast. Overall, we had 110 entries.
Fantastic.
I woke up that morning because our podcast goes live in the middle of the night. Because I do it like that so English people can hear it.
Got it.
On the way to work. And my inbox was like loaded up with entries. I was like, whoa.
Very good.
People like a contest.
Are we going to have to start doing drugs and going off the rails because we're becoming super famous? And then we're going to have a revelation. Then we're going to have to fall and fail and be like a mockery. And then we're going to have to come back and have found salvation and all that?
Maybe.
I've already lived that life. I'm 57.
And then we can be monkeys in a video.
I'm done. I've done all that already, so.
That is my stuff for this week. What is your stuff for this week? No, what is for dinner?
You're looking right at the little thingy and you still didn't, your brain was on it.
What is for the dinner?
Well, I think I'm going to make pot pies, but neither of us seem super excited about that.
Pies in a pot?
We're vegetarian. This is why I tell you what we eat, because people think when you're vegetarian, you're like starving or you eat lettuce all the time. That's not true. We do eat lettuce, but we're not starving. But so we have these pies from Marie Callender. One of them is a broccoli cheese pie. One of them is a plant-based, quote unquote, beef pot pie, which you love very much. And so if I get that in the oven, I might. If not, I don't know. Maybe Jimmy John's. I might skip all the way.
No, Jimmy John's actually sounds all right.
Does it?
Yeah.
Okay. Then maybe that's what I'll do, because I need to go pick up some paper at Staples, which no one cares about but me, but I might do that. And so my advice, you say? What's my advice?
I didn't, but I did.
Oh, you don't care anymore. It's been 25 years. This sounds bleak. This is going to sound bleak to some people. And it might cause some, behavioral choices or reaction. I don't care. But I find it quite fantastic that you, whoever's listening, and you over there, and me, we are literally just like everybody else, right? Except this. There are some really horrific people who will be born in this world, who have been, who do horrific things with no fucking excuse, no getting them off the hook. I don't give a shit. They're just horrible human beings. They are fewer than we like to think. They just happen to stand out because they do horrible things, right? Other than that, You're just like the trillions of other people, the humans who will have lived and died and lived and died and reproduced and lived and died and made podcasts and come up with cures for some diseases and built some buildings and whatnot, right? And then when the universe is done with us, that's it, right? You're just like everyone else. So while that seems defeatist or like, oh, then what's the point, right? Meaningless. No. What this is to me, it inspires me then to do everything in my days. And while people might look at my days and be like, this is inspired to you, but to me it is, right? To do things in a way that is fully me. Because the song, I Did It My Way, it rings in my head that my one chance to be here, there's never going to be a time when I am like a Robbie Williams character, right? Who the whole world can potentially know my name. I mean, I guess everyone can because I'm on a little podcast, but I need to just live my life because it's all I've got. And I don't need to be big and famous and known or solve a big problem. It would be great if I was motivated to do so, but I'm not. I'm not a horrible, wretched human being. So I think I've got that going for me. And so the rest of it is, yeah, I'm pretty okay with being one of the trillions of humans who live and keep things going and laugh and love and have crazy shit go on in this life. And look at, what movie was it? Last week we watched Wolfman, which you gave away to Mason and Amy.
Wolfman and Better Man.
There is a moment where in the beginning and at the end where they stand in front of a vista, you know, like a view of a valley with some mountains and a little pond or whatever it is, their river, lake. And they say, like, no matter how many times I look at this, it always amazes me. Those are the moments I feel like are, like if you see a sunset or you come up behind me and give me a hug, or I'm doing a project now where people will enjoy the outcome and the process and the joy of it. That is everything. And I'm okay with just being like, if you zoom out and you're looking at this planet from Jupiter and I'm literally non-existent, that's okay. Because right here, right now, I am. So it's okay to be just like all the other trillions of people. Live your life. The only thing is, don't be a horrible fucker.
Nice.
You know what I'm saying?
But at the end of this movie, he ended with that line he said something like, fuckers.
No. Fuck y'all. He says, I'm the best cabaret, and basically saying to all the people who are going to hate on him, like, fuck off, because I don't care what you think, right?
Yeah, I like that.
Yes, he did probably in life made a lot of bad choices that hurt people's feelings and was, terrible, but not the kind of horrible I'm talking about horrible people.
Yeah.
I watch a lot of murder shows, Forensic Files and shit like that. There are some unredeemable people who do not need to exist in this world. I'm not that. And so I feel like almost anything other than that, I'm good.
All right. ascully.com. It's the place you can go to get this podcast. Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. Those are the social media platforms you can find us on. I'm A Scully. She's Sid Talk. You can also go to Spotify, iTunes, Amazon Music, YouTube, anywhere that podcasts are available, and you will find us. Just search for After the Show Movie Podcast. Email feedback to me, ascully@ascully.com. Do not email Sid Talk, she doesn't want your email. And stay classy, the TV show Severance, which we are in the middle of at the moment, and it is amazing.
It is amazing. And I'm going to say, think for yourself, or someone's doing it for you.